consistent. I feel like ROCCAT has been more consistent in their performance, and I really want to see how they can play now against Unicorns of Love and if that early game is improved or not.
I completely agree with you there. I think the Unicorns are definitely a large question mark here. ROCCAT is much more consistent in what they do. They do have these long games. They do hold out and last if they can, and they never seem to lose decisively. It's always by just a little. And
always a lot of focus again on division. We just heard from the analyst desk how Vander is the support who wards the most in the UOL CS. And it's just been the go-to thing for ROCCAT, and what we actually have seen from them is they're starting to play more aggressive with the warding as well, and I expect to see the same against Unicorns.
Yeah, I think that is definitely going to be the case. Bans went quick here.
Yeah.
And yeah, the Nidalee gets picked up almost immediately. That one gets locked in for Kikis. But of course, those bans, the Zed, the Lissandra, Cassin, a lot of mid-focus there. And on ROCCAT's side, they take out the Jarvan, the Gnar, and the Ahri. And ROCCAT looking at what they want to pick up here in answer. The Nidalee, a bit surprised it made it through, but still.
Yeah, actually been banned in every other game we had today. Still considered here in Europe as one of the top junglers, not the top jungler, simply because of your early game burst damage. And obviously we have seen Jankos played last week. He won't get his hands on it this time because Kikis wants his second go on the Nidalee for himself. So I'm expecting to see some early aggression now coming out of Unicorns just from this Nidalee. And obviously because they are who they are.
That definitely seems to be the way to define them. Have that on switch. They did find a bit of a pause though.
Yeah.
And in that win over Fnatic, it was definitely stupendous to see. Let's see if they can fill out this very early aggressive comp against ROCCAT, or if they'll do something different.
Yeah, we see ROCCAT do the same thing Fnatic did in the last game, where you blind pick Xerath in the very first rotation. Nukeduck feeling very confident, clearly here. Everyone had a good showing. It worked for Fnatic, but there is still quite a lot of counter picks, so at least fairly strong picks into a Xerath. Keep in mind, he's a very immobile champion. He's very one-dimensional in what he's doing, so you can pick around it, and that's what they're doing with this Maokai lock-in here, because he can always dive onto Xerath in a team fight, and he has that 20% magic damage reduction, obviously to help out his team as well.
Really surprised that the, of course the Rek'Sai did make it through for a little bit. It was through the ban phase, and as I was going to say, they spent so much, the Unicorns did, on these mid and top flex picks that they neglected something like that. It does go through. Jankos is going to be able to pick it up, and now Woolite is eyeballing a hyper carry, and he does. He goes for the Kog'Maw.
Yeah, so very late game focused combo already coming in from ROCCAT, but actually still a fairly good power spike curve they have in, because you're building Trinity Force normally, and then obviously Morel Nomicon coming in from a Xerath, so you actually have a fairly good mid game as well, where you can group up and you can start sieging down a tower. Not as effective as a Corki Xerath comp like we saw Fnatic use, but still very, very strong. And obviously the late game now, two very, very hard scaling champions from ROCCAT. But it's not like the Unicorns with their first few picks are looking weak either. Caitlyn, one of the hyper carries we do have. Maokai, fantastic tank in the late game. Only problem is that Nidalee, she doesn't offer too much in a late game fight.
Not particularly, and it does seem like it's a bit of the way the Lee Sin used to be picked up as sort of a bridge in some cases, except for this is more snowballing off those ganks. And you see the last lock-ins for Unicorns, they do pick up the Morgana, and they take the Cassiopeia.
We are going late game.
Yes, we are.
Both teams really, really having some strong comps here. Obviously, the Rek'Sai will outscale a Nidalee in terms of the fights.
But there's also a lot of early game gank pressure, too. And once you hit 6, it becomes really, really irritating. So I feel like it's on the junglers. You know, Jankos is called the First Blood King for a reason.
True. We have to remember, however, that Rek'Sai has lost quite a lot of damage in the early game. 5.1, 5.2, some nerfs to her. And that simply means in a straight-up one-on-one, as long as Kikis gets the jump onto Jankos, then he's actually going to be stronger. And that's something Unicorns can use with these fairly strong lanes, especially the mid and the bottom lane with the Caitlyn and the Cassiopeia. Push those waves in, play very aggressive there, and therefore allow Kikis now to invade into the enemy jungle, look for these one-on-one fights with Jankos.
And there is the Sion lock-in as well. So ROCCAT gives themselves some serious tank. We get to see a little bit more variety this time, and I'm actually really excited to see how PowerOfEvil does on this Cassiopeia. It's actually been banned against this team in half the games so far, and because it makes it through, he goes a little bit different. I still think it's going to help his playstyle, because he does make not very mobile champions look pretty mobile.
Very true, very true. He's very good at his positioning in fights and in the laning phase. But again, both teams here, some very, very strong late game team fights we're going to look at. We have the 2 tanks. Obviously, I will still say the Maokai. In a late game fight, I'll take him over Sion any day. But Sion's mid game, because he doesn't need to go Rod of Ages, he's just going to go straight tank, nothing else. He gets a very, very early tank power spike, if we can call it that, where he becomes extremely hard to deal with. And that's why, again, ROCCAT, because you actually have some decent mid-game through Nukeduck and Woolite, Trinity Force, Morel, Normicon coming in, can actually group there and look for fights, while the Caitlyn is really weak and needs more time to scale up. Cassiopeia as well want to stack up that poison. So the mid-game here is where ROCCAT can try and make some plays to get that lead and get your carries into late game first, and then win the team fights before Unicorns get up there as well.
Yeah, I think they've definitely picked a comp that they're going to be able to do that with. The question is, can they execute? Can they deal with the chaos that the Unicorns create? Now, you've seen those lineups. Let us know what your predictions are. Go ahead and tweet us at LOL Esports using the hashtag UOL win or ROC win. We'll check on those results in the game. But this is going to be a crazy one. How could it not be? The Unicorns of Love are going to be taking on Team ROCCAT. The banners are lit, the chants are up, and we're onto the Rift.
And 2 teams here trying to get into the top 3 in Europe. Both of them want to be up there with, obviously, Elements, Fnatic, and SK Gaming. Just haven't really shown the consistency yet for Unicorns, and we've just seen ROCCAT with a very hard schedule, but also playing way too passive, falling behind in the early game. So clear weaknesses for both teams that can be exploited.
Well, it will really come down to how those 2 teams do execute. And yes, I think ROCCAT are a bit more consistent, but they do have their own set of issues. The real question is, where do these junglers go? Where do they make their early plays? We've seen a lot of Nidalees so far since it's been picked up more and more. Kikis didn't have an incredibly impressive game on it,
30 seconds until
but there's still the potential there to do something really, really crazy in the early game, start snowballing kills. And if they can do that, I'm really worried for ROCCAT.
Yeah, I agree for sure here. Then Nidalee is going to help Unicorns of Love get into this late game stage for themselves. But it's fun because the 2 junglers we have in this game is widely considered here in Europe as the 2 best junglers. Or at least they're with the likes of a Jarvan. And they both offer map control. Nidalee offers map control through her strong one-on-one potential, so she can invade into your jungle, find your jungler and fight him and kill him. Place a few wards, and that way she's going to be able to control it. While Rek'Sai, of course, with her ulti, is able to jump from one lane to another, her strong early ganks as well. So you have 2 junglers here who can really impact early on. And obviously Kikis and Jankos has been 2 of the better junglers here in Europe. Jankos widely considered, if not the best, then at least top 2 together with Svenska.
Uh-oh, starting off early, Vander is going to eat a binding followed by the Peacemaker. That'll teach him to be checking too close to the brush. And everything else looks like it's going to be a pretty standard start, as well as Vizicsacsi making his way up to the top lane. And you touched on a really interesting point. I feel like not just Jankos, but all of ROCCAT have a lot of respect of the rest of the teams in the European LCS, despite the fact that they started 1-3. They're very, there's Overpow doing that Sion. They started at 1-3, yeah. They had a really rough schedule, and they bounced back pretty well. Now they're at 3-3, but every time I talk to another team in the European LCS, they always say, great in scrims.
Yeah,
they're really terrible, terrifying to play against, and they don't have the worst record in the world right now. I want to see how they go forward in this one, because it seems like they've definitely found a stride.
Yeah, again, we know the late game is good. We know the team fighting is great. They've placed a lot of wards as well as a team, but they just play too safe, simply in the early game. But still, I want to give them the credit from last week, because we saw the same move from ROCCAT in both the games, where as soon as they had the chance, they would actually rotate the AD carry to the top lane, take down the tower, and then with him and Vander, they would walk down to the enemy jungle, place a few deep wards, and this again we're talking 12-13 minutes, and kind of be more aggressive in the way they were playing. But this lane here, obviously remember when you pick a Caitlyn, you want to win your laning phase. That's where you are very, very strong, and that's why we see Unicorns also aiming for this 2-on-2 setup, trying really to poke out Woolite and make sure he can get the farm he needs. And this is the map control we talk about with Nidalee. She can go into the enemy jungle. Notice how the bottom lane is pushing up for Unicorns, and he's finding Jankos.
Yep, does land the spear, and he just goes ahead and steals the Gromp away. So Kikis will grab a little something for his trouble. should set Jankos back for just a moment. Try to keep tabs on where that jungler will be at all times. A little bit difficult when dealing with the Void monster, but he's doing a good job so far.
Doing a very, very good job here from Kikis, and it's what we mentioned with the 2 lanes. As long as you can control the mid and the bottom lane, you open up for him to walk in there and know he can get assistance from his teammates. Therefore, gets a Grom for himself and a level advantage on Jankos. No summoner spells forced. Vizicsacsi trading with Overpow in a bit of a wet noodle fight up here between 2 super tanks. Remember, Sion can go straight tank, where we're gonna see the Rod of Ages coming in from the Maokai. So it needs a little bit more time to scale up, but you do then have your ulti with the 20% damage reduction.
I don't think I've ever seen a tree do that much damage to a Lumberjack, but he's gonna have to be a little bit careful. He's got that flash to heal up a little bit. Meanwhile, Vardags having to pop potion of his own, and he's been able to trade out with Woolite here, but the problem is that late game, yes, Caitlyn is going to be fantastic. Of course, she should win the lane, but should they ever fall behind, this is when a Kog'Maw is going to start shining quite a lot, and they have some pick potential if they wander too close. Vander has been letting those hooks fly.
Yeah, so the problem is, again, this Morgana coming in with their Black Shield, making it nearly impossible for Vander to set up any place. You can actually proc the Black Shield fairly easily as a Thresh, get a few ranks in either. Typically we see in the Flay, you can use that to proc the Black Shield and then still connect. And obviously if you land the hook, while you won't snare the target, you can still follow up on it and actually jump onto him and maybe switch over to the Caitlyn. So there are ways to play around it for Vander, but it's becoming very hard, especially because they're losing the one-on-one AD carry trade.
Yeah, while we're on the subject of those AD carry trades, you know, these 2 bot lanes are definitely a little bit night and day in a few of their numbers. In particular, I want to focus on Vardags and Hylissang because they actually have the most deaths in the entirety of the European LCS in terms of their role. So that bot lane collectively gone 49 deaths. I mean, they've definitely had a hard time. Admittedly, they've gotten in some really crazy fights, some really crazy situations, but you got to think that this is almost like a guaranteed safety lane for them. And I wonder how much that particular stat line's really made that into their mind.
I mean, we very often see Hylissang being the guy that sacrifices himself for the team. He's engaging in. He's played Leona 4 times and always going in first, so that's obviously why he's been racking up so many deaths here, while Vardags, on the other hand, it basically comes from the fact that when unicorns are losing, they're getting destroyed. Like, that's it. They just get stomped in their games and end up dying so much. But again, look at Kikis. Already placed a few D-bots in the jungle. He keeps walking around looking for Jankos. Jankos won't be able to do anything to him. And he can use this to say, okay, Crooks were alive, so I know Jankos hasn't been here for a while, so I'm going to consider that either he's back in base or he's on the bottom side of the map because you didn't see him on any of the wards. Use that information always to make sure you know where the jungler is and you don't go too aggressive when he could be nearby.
Yeah, just trying to find any moment he can get in and attack Jankos, but settling for a little bit of counter jungling isn't the worst thing in the world either. The problem is, you mentioned it, Nidalee's got that ticking timer of usefulness, so Kikis is going to have to find an in here. So far, he hasn't really impacted the lanes too much. We'll see where he decides to go next.
Yeah, putting all his focus on counter jungling, not ganking, and there we see the rank 2 hook from Vander, instantly removing the Black Shield from Hylissang, and then you can follow up with a Flay as your way of actually engaging, but you don't really have that all-in potential. Woolite is just going to sit back and try and farm from ROCCAT's side.
It's done quite well in a lane that is a little bit rough for the Kog'Maw. I guess there's probably quite a lot of those, but he's kept up reasonably well in farm. He was pushed back. Yes, he's down about 9-10 farm right now, but they've been playing it incredibly safe, and not a moment too soon they place that ward down. Here comes Kikis, gonna get spotted. The flash, nothing is going to connect, actually. You saw some spears and dark bindings, but they all just threaded the needle as Woolite was able to grab a lantern out to safety. And right back to the farm game.
Right back to the farm game. Yeah, Hylissang tried to surprise with flash binding. Not exactly the easy thing to hit. And in the end, the Vander.
Oh, he's able to hit one point blank, though, yeah. And now Vardags is here. Woolite gonna burn his flash. He's gonna go low. And that's first blood. Hylissang trying to answer back with the kill. Ignite is just gonna do it. Vander picks up the answer now. Vizicsacsi dealing with Overpow and Jankos, but he is a very tanky tree, and he's trying to walk it on back home. Meanwhile, in the mid, suddenly the switch is flipped. It's turned on. Nukeduck flashes. PowerOfEvil, that's another kill. He's able to go on forward with the flash and make the play. All said and done around the map, 2-1.
Remember again, this was the first rotation. Xerath, blind pick coming in from ROCCAT. It worked for everyone in the last game. Now, a one-on-one kill for PowerOfEvil, and down the bottom lane, we started binding into a trap, the old Caitlyn Morgana lane. In the end, they trade 1-for-1, but there was a kill for Vardags, where it was a kill for Vander on the side of ROCCAT.
Yeah, and Hylissang was the one that did get killed. Vardags got that one back up, and of course, they pick up the dragon after all of that. The Unicorns, say what else you want about them, they certainly know how to take advantage of a situation, and they managed to grab themselves a nice little edge there.
Look at PowerOfEvil here. Normally we just see tier as your first item on a Cassiopeia, and then you can go into like a Rhyalize maybe as your second item. He's actually building towards a Rod of Ages as well. So with this early kill and the free farm he's had in lane, he's feeling like he can actually get that Rod of Ages early enough to make it stack up in time and be useful. And then obviously have the tier as well, which is going to be fully stacked around for him, probably 22-minute point in this game as long as he can stay in the lane and farm. So really gonna look towards 2 early scaling items, and it can pay off for him because he gets them this early on with that first, with the 1 kill in lane.
Yeah, I think as you mentioned before, it's all gonna come down to if they're going to be able to take advantage in the mid game, ROCCAT that is. Right now, they're definitely keeping pace, but you can't afford to give up too many picks like that, especially against the team that typically had been having some trouble in the laning phase. Now, I mean, it's not entirely fair because it is a Caitlyn Morgana lane, but Woolite, he cannot afford to eat another point-blank binding like that because Vardags is just going to start shredding through his health.
Yeah, that's for sure here. He just needs to stay back and farm. Jankos moving here to try to set up a lane gang.
He's got the skirmishers on, too.
No flash for Hylissang. Gonna be all about that black shield. It is down for now, so Vander can go for it. There it is.
He's gonna play backwards. Hylissang looks to be the target in sights. They zoom right on in. Jankos is gonna pick him up, but he's gotta walk it out. Here comes the teleport from Vizicsacsi. Jankos, Vander, Woolite, can they escape? Woolite is just too slow, and just like that, a spear, a shot, an ace in the hole. And Unicorns of Love pick up another kill.
Getting a kill here. Again, they're trading 1-for-1, these two teams. Vizicsacsi had to use the teleport. It was already down from Overpow, so he wasn't able to join. Should be a tower as well. You have the Nidalee heal onto a Caitlyn. That's a good combination we have seen a few times here in Europe, where you use that to simply fast push down towers to get the attack speed onto a Caitlyn with a long range, so you can stay safely back, and you very quickly get a few outer turrets and some global gold.
Right, and the best part about that is they didn't have to give up the top turret. It looks like he's still trying to push on it. But Overpow just doesn't have the damage on the full tank Sion, and yeah,
there we go.
There we go. he makes it up the second time.
He's fine.
Hey, we've all been there, Deficio.
Indeed we have. And it's worse if you flash into the wall.
Yes, that does hurt. So Overpow's going to try to push this tower in finally, but again, it's so difficult when you don't have that much damage. He'll finally be able to chop it down. He sticks around a little bit long, but Vizicsacsi is still there. Here comes Hylissang around the side. He's going to start charging. Can they let? No! Way too fast, and he'll zoom his way back to his own tower. A lot of Unicorns were looking to charge him down there, but you can't beat that Sion when he goes running.
Nope, once he pops his ulti, it's a hard man to lock down. Kikis again. He's probably been spending more time in the jungle of ROCCAT than his own here. Keep counter jungling, and yeah, skirmish is Saber actually for Jankos, so he's gonna aim for these late game team fights instead of their early ganking pressure, and simply have the 20% damage reduction on either Vardags or PowerOfEvil when he's trying to dive in, because keep in mind, Unicorns is only going to run with Maokai's front line. If ROCCAT can then send in the Rek'Sai and the Sion, they can buy more time than Unicorns can for their carries to take down the Maokai and then start rolling over Unicorns.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be the game plan for them, but for now the Unicorns still maintain a nice 3,000 gold edge. And it's difficult for Jankos to really get involved in his own jungle here. All the outer turrets have been knocked down for ROCCAT. The Unicorns will be able to spend a little bit of that gold they've acquired. And Jankos, you know, he's done decently well in this Nidalee. Not really an explosive power. And there you go. There's the Medjai's Soul Stealer again. You know, he got 20 stacks on it that last time, or the time before, rather.
Yeah, so Jankos normally, obviously, when he's playing Nidalee, gets the Soul Stealer. Kikis stealing it now, getting it for himself.
Yeah.
And
he's adopting the build.
Again, it's so hard to comment on that Soul Stealer because it's such a risky buy. But the Nidalee players like to do it because you need to snowball anyway to be effective in the late game fights. So why not have that Soul Stealer? If you end up losing all the stacks on it, or if you just go standard normal AP, you might not be as useful anyway. So why not try and go for it?
That looked like it hurt.
And that's the first stack already here. Keep in mind, it is nearly gold efficient when you buy it. Get 1 or 2 stacks, and then you are good to go with that Soul Stealer on a Nidalee. And really, Unicorns looking to snowball.
Looking to close out the options that Jankos does have in his own jungle. I have never seen so many Rek'Sai tunnels cleared. And they're not really letting ROCCAT have a whole lot of breathing room in this one, but with 45 seconds
Woolite
gonna have to. Yes, there we go. They land not quite everything, but it was enough to take him down. Kikis is going to take 1 shot from the tower and leaps away from the Acathian surprise. Tower's now on the menu, boys, right after a healthy serving of Kog'Maw.
Really love the way Unicorns are using their lane dominance just to get more and more kills, not just sitting back and allowing ROCCAT to farm. Nope. We sit and hide in random bushes. We kill your AD carry when he's trying to farm actually around his own tower. And suddenly there's a Cassiopeia sitting, waiting for you. Keep pressuring this advantage. Deep wards are in there. Towers will go down as well. Now though, Overpow is flying in.
Yeah, he's going to try to make something happen. They scatter away from Kikis, but they found Nukeduck around the side, and PowerOfEvil will be able to pick another. Kikis not quite going down. Yes, he is. The Praise Seeker nails him in the back, but there is going to be a fight right after that. Jankos going very low. Vizicsacsi, PowerOfEvil coming up with another Pixel Rampage kill. His 4th of the game. Unicorns of Love, they're just simply beating ROCCAT to the punch here.
Completely, and second time Nukeduck here gets caught out first one-on-one in the lane, and now trying to come in and assist his team in a fight, but he walks through his own jungle, which is warded by Unicorns, and they jump him instantly. Let's see it again. So Overpow jumping in. Notice here Nukeduck on the side. Well, you're on a ward, my friend, and Unicorns are ready to collapse onto you. He's dead. Kikis will go down as well, but the fight is still won by the Unicorns. Another kill onto Jankos, and they keep applying the pressure, not allowing ROCCAT to do anything.
The target prioritization from the Unicorns is really spectacular here, because they find if the squishy targets, the immobile targets, are just an inch out of position, and they immediately collapse. In mass too. Like, I've just been really impressed with the way that they've been able to do that. Frost Queen's Claim being used by Hylissang to try and push Nukeduck and Overpow off this tower, keeping them safe for now.
You have Archangel and a Rod of Ages already completed around the 16-minute mark.
Oh yeah.
It's gonna stack up so fast for PowerOfEvil here. He's gonna be really, really strong in this game. And even Vardags, because he gets all these early kills, he got the towers, he got the farm, you're just gonna skip right past the weak Caitlyn mid-game, get to your 2-item and 3-item spike, where obviously ROCCAT now still only sitting on 1 completed core item for each member. Trinity Force is now completed by Woolite.
This is the mid-game that ROCCAT had to be ahead in, and unfortunately, they've really fallen quite far behind. 6,000 gold. We usually talk about how they're able to hold out quite well, but this game's starting to look a little more one-sided.
Yeah, and remember, it was ROCCAT who decided to do standard lanes. There was no swapping coming in, despite Sion also being one of the best top laners in a lane swap. They decided to go standard lanes. Lost every single lane, actually, in terms of farm, kills even in bot and mid lane, and been losing their turrets ever since.
Yeah, they just can't quite clear the wave away fast enough. However, the shield will be enough to keep it at full health. The Unicorns, however, still roaming around in mass and dragging ROCCAT around the map. They're really dictating the pace of this game, and that's just fine by them, because the longer it goes, the bigger PowerOfEvil is going to get, and he's not the only one.
Oh, he's not the only one, that's for sure. The Maokai as well, going into the late game. Be a force to be reckoned with. Obviously, there's quite some tank damage on him from the likes of Woolite, but the more time he spends on killing Vizicsacsi is the more time PowerOfEvil and Vardags is going to spend on killing the rest of ROCCAT.
Yeah, can't really deal with that many threats at once, it seems. ROCCAT are attempting to save 2 sides of their base right now, but the Unicorns are stretching them a little bit thin around here. Mini Wave pushing in their favor on the bottom as well, so they'll have to deal with that eventually.
Exactly, they're putting pressure here on 3 lanes at once, waiting for these minions to push up in the bottom lane, so ROCCAT has to send someone back and defend that one. will take a lot of damage on their inhibitor turret while they're making sure they control the top side of the jungle where they're moving in between, getting a few hits on the tower every single time, and just forcing ROCCAT to stay back and try and wave clear.
Really not giving them much of an opening, and that minion wave in the bottom starting to build really big here. Yep, gonna be a problem as it goes forward. Unicorn still taking everything out of the jungle away from ROCCAT. Jankos has not been able to really get in and do much of anything. He does have a better scoreline than Kikis, but that's not really gonna mean much at this point in the game. 19 minutes in, they've caught Nukeduck on a binding. A hook comes in. Towers at half health. They're just gonna keep sieging it down. Woolite, though, he's got a bit of damage, but he's gonna take an ace in the hole for his troubles as well. And the Unicorns are still not deterred.
No, they did take a lot of damage here, though. We did see the binding onto Nukeduck, followed by a spear, a little peacemaker, but ROCCAT actually managed to hold off for now with their wave there. Nukeduck got to clear the bottom lane, and no tower going down for the Unicorns of Love just yet.
Not quite
Also
yet.
They can do exactly the same again. They have nothing to be afraid of. Go straight in there, do the same. Slow push one wave with minions. Have Vizicsacsi push the other one and have 4 guys in the mid lane. PowerOfEvil.
Yep.
Forcing Overpow to ult again.
He's done that so many times to try to get away, and yes, it's worked, but when you have to spend your ults defensively, when you have to move back and maybe buy as many defensive items as possible, it's definitely not looking good. You're not controlling the pace of the game very well. And again, ROCCAT, it seems like they haven't just had their power spike delayed, they've almost entirely missed it here.
Yeah, haven't been able to group up at all and use at least the Trinity Force on Woolite, but it's not the end of the world as long as you don't fall too far behind, which then will become the end of the world, and that's what we're seeing here from ROCCAT. 6,000 gold behind in 20 minutes, 4 towers. Another dragon should be picked up soon as well for the Unicorns, 2-0. But you didn't have to make plays if you were ROCCAT. I mean, your late game is still strong, as long as you just didn't fall behind and made sure Woolite could farm, and that's not been the case. He fell behind the lane, he's died 3 times already, and there's going to be a very delayed Blade of the Ring King coming in from him as well. And Unicorns can fight at any time they want to, especially because PowerOfEvil. I mean, look at that guy, he's going to be so strong.
Yeah, he's definitely the most immediate threat on this team, and ROCCAT not entirely respecting that damage, especially not in the lane phase. Nukeduck has had anything but an easy game for himself at 0-2. And there goes the Rek'Sai Scream, but just a little bit more farm here. Overpow going to duke it out with Vizicsacsi. Here comes Jankos, actually a little more than he bargained for. Can't quite pick the pink ward.
Phantom Dancer should be completed now for Vardags. Going for the maximum amount of team fight damage he can get. No static shift to fast push any waves for him. And now Last Whisper, once it comes in, he can actually deal with the Sion fairly well. Because we have to remember Sion as a pick. Yes, he gets very tanky, but he has 0 damage in a late game fight. And his CC is fairly unreliable as well. From ulti to his Q, a bit of a slow charge before you get the knock up from it. And that's one of his main problems, that if you don't actually do well in the mid game with Sion, you're just not as strong as the other tanks.
Yeah,
Teleport as well.
Really trying to find a Woolite, but there we go. Chachi's going in. They're going to try to force the fight. The spear is going to connect. They're able to get the damage out, and Vizicsacsi picking up Nukeduck. Overpow now flashing low. There is the twisted advance, and Vizicsacsi walking it on out. Hylissang a bit low. Vizicsacsi completely fine and all that. 1-2, pick up the kills, go right back to pushing the turret. This is Unicorns all over.
Yeah, and it's funny again. Look at the minimap. It's all about ROCCAT in terms of warding in their own jungle. They play so many defensive wards, but this was just a random teleport come in from Vizicsacsi to flank them, and then a fight around the mid lane itself, land the binding, land the snare from Vizicsacsi, and then suddenly you can just follow up with all your single target damage from the Cassiopeia and the Caitlyn.
Yeah, it's really strange seeing so many wards on the ROCCAT side just not converted into anything. There is that 3rd dragon picked up for them, and actually, it's funny you bring that up too, because of these 2 supports, Vander's the one who wards far more, and Hylissang not so much. Let's take a look at how that play shaped up despite the vision.
Yeah, again, so Vizicsacsi gets a great engage with his teleport, and ROCCAT, are just so far behind that once Vizicsacsi gets onto either Nukeduck or Woolite, then that target is going to die with so much single target damage coming out of PowerOfEvil and Vardags. They're starting a Desperation Baron here.
They don't have the damage really for it if the Unicorns do find out, but again, maybe
it.
that vision, there we go. That The blue trinket goes down, and they have to peel off as the Unicorns start heading towards the Baron pit. ROCCAT bail away.
Just had to go for it. I mean, there's nothing else on the map. Dragon was already gone. And had the Unicorns just walk straight up mid lane, might have been a free Baron there for ROCCAT, but now
Unicorns are
taking over. There's a ward outside the Baron pit here, so ROCCAT can see that this is started.
They don't have a
and start
much
moving
damage
down.
either.
That's the Cassiopeia, however, with the blue buff.
Oh, now that she's shown up, yeah, that's a little bit tricky, though. A little bit damage taken by both teams. It's a tense moment as they both peel away from the Baron. Now it is Unicorns who are moving back up the middle, actually through the jungle of ROCCAT, who are in fast retreat.
Yeah, if Unicorns want to start this Baron again, then they have to do what they're doing right now. Clear out these ping wards, place your own wards deep in the jungle so you can see ROCCAT coming, and you need an Oracle lens. Oracle's lens here to clear all these wards from ROCCAT around this Baron, otherwise you won't be able to start it outside of Hylissang. So they decide to back away from it. Once again, take over the jungle.
This time the vision helps for sure.
Yeah. There's still so many wards from ROCCAT, so they're going to see them started. Again, as soon as Vizicsacsi walks in here, there you go, you can see him walk into the Baron pit. And ROCCAT are reacting to it. Still a lot of damage from Unicorns.
Yeah, I gotta admire the tenacity that they still
can hold them off
and
here.
do this
That's
here.
good.
Yeah, this is actually gonna come down to it.
Ooh.
They do get it smited down so close. And the Baron is picked up by the Unicorns. No casualties sustained.
Yeah, and they didn't actually even need to clear these wards around the Baron because Nukeduck showed himself in the bottom lane.
Whoa, okay.
Too
much. That's okay. Hylissang's there. And he is actually able to dodge out the hook. Ace in the hole comes out to make Vander a little bit lower. ROCCAT now retreating once again. And they're just going to start shoving down mid with these Baron empowered minions.
Yeah, a few deep wards and then Nukeduck showing himself in the bottom lane. And then Unicorns went straight for that Baron here. Ignore the pink wards, or sorry, the green wards around it, didn't matter. They are looking good. 25 minutes. Inhibitor down. Baron picked up all the dragons. 10,000 gold lead.
I like that they kind of have this fusionist style, the Unicorns do. They're able to play methodically when they want to, but when you least expect it, they're going to throw something crazy and like, oh, you just tried a Baron? Okay, now we're going to try the Baron. And now they're going to be able to push on, but Vizicsacsi is caught. He's causing some chaos of his own. In the back, the tower's down. He's going to go down, and they'll trade the objective and back away from the remainder of the Right of the Arcane.
Yeah, another inhibitor open here for the Unicorns. Can go back, use all the gold they've picked up. Like 2,600 gold on Vardags, 1,600 on Kikis. I mean, there's a lot of gold being picked up here. Some key items coming in and go straight back down to that inhibitor. Get that one, and then suddenly let the super minions do the work while you take the last outer turret in the top lane. This should not be difficult for the Unicorns to do and basically take that win, not allowing ROCCAT to do anything.
Well, you mentioned they tend to win these snowball fashions when they can just trample down opponents. ROCCAT has almost never been in a hole this big, and this is really troubling for them. We talked a lot about how a lot of teams consider them to be one of the best and one of the most underrated teams in Europe. Right now, the Unicorns are really proving that assertion otherwise.
Again, they're showing the same early dominance we have seen before from them. When they're every time they pick up wins, except for the Fnatic games, is through them winning the laning phase and just keep applying pressure onto the enemy team, never allowing them to just sit and farm. And they've been doing it again because every single lane was winning. And especially with Vardags getting that early kill and PowerOfEvil getting the early kills, it's just gone so wrong for ROCCAT.
Yeah, PowerOfEvil is just getting so scary. Kikis still staying relevant in the back, just throwing spears as best he can. And also worth mentioning here, Vardags has got a pretty darn good scoreline for himself. We're getting to that point in the game where Caitlyn's starting to come a lot more useful once again. Tower, or rather inhibitor, at half health, and they're still protecting the big minion. Meanwhile, Vizicsacsi going to do a little split pushing of his own. Can ROCCAT defend this inhib? It's going to be tough.
Keep in mind as well, ROCCAT, their engage is very easy to spot for Unicorns of Love. This is Sion trying to run in, so they won't be able to start any fights. No real hard engage on the side of ROCCAT either.
They're living in this base right now. There's no one that can defend against Vizicsacsi. It's going to take him a while to poke this down, but he's got some minions at his back. And the rest of the team is going to show up here as well. Unicorns of Love just taking everything away from ROCCAT, not letting them out of their base. They grab another turret here. It's 28 minutes in, and this is looking so dire for Team ROCCAT.
Yeah, again, push into this turret here, wait for the super minions to do some work in the mid lane. We see they're already close to that Nexus turret. then take down the tower as soon as ROCCAT has moved away.
They can't get in position in time. The tower is at half health. They're going to be able to push off of the mini waves for just a moment, but there will be one in another minute or two. PowerOfEvil, Vardags in the front line, unafraid of this ROCCAT squad. And meanwhile, Vizicsacsi just went ahead and switched positions. He's down on the bottom side. He's poking away. They're getting super minions on the way. I mean, this is just going so well right now for the Unicorns.
Yeah, no reason to back away. Stay till this tower is gone. Heal Vardags, let him get a few hits on the tower every single time, then it will go down.
Yep. PowerOfEvil are going to tank a little bit up. There's still some super minions on the bottom side. The tower goes down. There we go, flashing forward. Vizicsacsi is going to manage to grab himself a Woolite kill. They're chasing ROCCAT all the way back to their fountain. They've got nowhere to go here. 29.5 minutes. They grab themselves the last inhibitor. They can just keep pushing in as slowly as they please. There is nothing ROCCAT can do to stop them.
Nothing at all, and really, really good performance. Might try and get a few kills.
Yeah, PowerOfEvil does take a few shots on the right of the Arcane. Even if they back out here and take a moment and just come right back, there's 3 inhibitors down. There's a dragon that's easily the Unicorns. They can even take their time about this because there's still going to be a few minutes before that even that first inhibitor comes back up.
And again, just like last time when they went back to base, there was like 1,600 plus gold on every member. Look at that here. More items incoming for the Unicorns of Love. They should not be afraid. They aren't, obviously. Probably the easiest statement in the world. But I do think Unicorns are going to win.
Yeah, and they definitely have shown some impressive games when they've won in the European LCS, but this is just a massive lead for them. 10 towers to 3, 15,000 gold ahead of their opponents. And ROCCAT, they're not a bad team. They've just gotten so far out-rotated, so beat down in the mid-game that they were supposed to be strong. They've not played in the laning phase. Their win conditions, they just did not fit. And as a result, the Unicorns have stampeded all over them.
Basically, yeah. It's all about that early laning phase. Going so heavily in favor of the Unicorns. And then again, them not sitting back, trying to play passive. Really showing how both the Unicorns and H2K have showed today a great ability to close out games. And no longer the passive EU style we had last year. Now, there's only one way once you have a lead, and that's forward. Keep pushing it, keep forcing fights, forcing objectives.
Unicorns is this team. They're the ones that do challenge the meta, that do push it forward. And right now, pushing forward into the base, the inhibitor will fall once again in the middle. Not much ROCCAT can do. They've backed themselves into a corner, been backed into a corner, I should say. Vander going to intercept the ace in the hole. But there's only one Nexus tower remaining, and it doesn't look like it's going to be there for much longer. Unicorns of Love chasing them all away. Woolite just trying to stay alive, and he just gets popped down. Not even going to try for the Acathian surprise. That's going to be it. 31.5 minutes in. GG as the Unicorns of Love put another W